Everyone, it's attorney Bianca Jordan from Brazen Legal. I wanted to hop on and do a really quick video. Now that we know who won the election, I wanted to do this really quick video on what we can expect from immigration policy in a Biden presidency. Before I get into all of those details, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss any of my videos. And if you're not doing so already, I'd invite you to also follow me on Instagram because I post a lot of content over there as well. And once a week, I invite people to ask me questions, which I then answer in little snippets. I provide a lot of tips and immigration information in 60 seconds or less. So I do invite you to follow me over on Instagram. I am Brazen Lawyer. So again, this video is about what we can expect from immigration in a Biden presidency. As we know, the last 4 years has been very hard, very challenging for immigrants everywhere, for immigration attorneys as well. It's been very discouraging, challenging, hard, frustrating. As we know, Trump ran on a very anti-immigrant racist campaign, and he promised to deliver on all of the things that he said that he would do during his campaign. And for the most part, he did. Within a week of starting his presidency, he issued one of the first Muslim bans. He would go on to issue other travel bans throughout his presidency. He ended DACA. He also ended TPS for a lot of countries. He over the course of his presidency, made the process of applying for asylum more complicated, more difficult, more cumbersome. And one of the main things that he did during this presidency is revamping the public charge rule to make it more restrictive and make it harder for immigrants to get a visa and a green card to come to the United States. So under a Biden presidency, which he did issue his immigration plans for if he were to become president, I believe if you were to print the document out, it would be about, I think, 27 pages or so. I'm going to try to synthesize and summarize the key points in his policy. But one of the things that he wants to do within his first 100 days of presidency, and for those who don't know, President-elect Joe Biden will be inaugurated on January 20th, 2021. So one of the things that he wants to do within his first 100 days of being president of the United States is that he wants to undo all of the executive orders that Trump implemented during his presidency, all of the very restrictive executive orders, immigration executive orders that Trump put in. So for example, one of the executive orders that he issued this year is one that he issued in April of 2020 that prohibits certain immigrants from coming to the United States. So, for example, if you are the brother or sister of a U.S. citizen, you currently cannot get a green card to come to the United States because of this executive order. Similarly, if you are a married child of a U.S. citizen, or if you are the child of a green card holder, you currently cannot get a green card to come to the United States because of this executive order that Trump put in place in April of 2020. And he also extended it to December 31st, 2020. So Biden will likely just let this lapse and not renew it in January. But that is an example of one of the executive orders that Biden intends to end once he officially becomes our president in January. Another thing that Biden wants to do is he wants to reverse all of the really damaging, horrible policies that separate children and their parents from their parents at the Mexican border. As we know, there are over 500 children that are still unaccounted for, that still cannot be reunited with their parents, and Biden wants to make sure that he is ending that policy so that this does not continue to happen again in the future. Biden also intends to terminate Trump's migrant protection protocols, which is also known as Remain in Mexico. And that is the policy whereby right now, typically how the process is supposed to work is that you cannot apply for asylum unless you are in the United States. You have to be on US soil in order to apply for asylum, and you have to do so within a year, give or take very few exceptions. So one of the things that the Trump administration did to try to make it harder for immigrants to apply for asylum is by literally creating a barrier that prevents them from even coming into the United States at all. So they now have to remain in Mexico until their time has come so that they can apply for asylum. And throughout that process, there are a lot of human rights violations that are happening. These are people that are fleeing persecution from their home country on account of, persecution they faced because of their race, nationality, and, political opinion. And now they're coming and they are being re-subject to some of these same things that they were trying to escape. They are experiencing kidnapping, sexual assault, and various other horrific things because they cannot physically come to the United States to apply for asylum. So one of the things that Biden wants to do is to get rid of this program so that people can come back to the United States and apply for asylum. And he wants to also reinstate certain categories for people that want to apply for asylum. So for example, a couple years ago, one of Jeff Sessions' parting gifts for us is that he removed the ability for certain people who are coming here to apply for asylum based on, for example, their sexual orientation. So there are a lot of people in the LGBTQIA community who would be able to come to the United States and apply for asylum based on their membership in a particular social group. Similarly, victims of domestic violence who are coming from countries that don't really respect women or really protect women, protect victims and survivors of domestic violence, they too were able to apply for asylum under the membership in a particular social group category. And one of the things that Jeff Sessions did before he left was he removed that ability. So one of the things that Biden would like to do is to reinstate that so that these people are able to come to asylum and seek protection under these categories. Another thing that Biden wants to do, which is very important, and you've probably heard about it in the news back and forth this year, is to reverse the public charge rule. So as a reminder, the public charge rule is a part of our immigration law in the United States. It is one of the grounds of inadmissibility, which means that it is one of the reasons that immigration can deny you a visa or a green card to come to the United States. And the old rule, as it was in the immigration law, is basically that you can be denied entry into the United States if the government believes that you are likely to become a public charge in the next 5 years. And they would, base this on your age, your education, your finances, your health, and so forth. But the emphasis would be placed on your petitioner, who would have to file an affidavit of support for you in coming here. So for example, if an immigrant were penniless, didn't have a lot of savings, as long as the petitioner was able to show that they had enough income to support that person, including, support their household, including that immigrant, then that was fine. The immigrant could continue to come to the United States, and the sponsor just creates that contract with the government that says that they will support the immigrant so that the immigrant does not end up on public benefits, aka ends up being a public charge. But over the years, the Trump administration has pushed this rhetoric of immigrants coming here to want to sponge off of the system and abuse the public benefits in the United States. So they tried to revamp the public charge rule, putting more of an emphasis on the immigrants that need the visa or the green card. So they want to now look at the immigrants' finances, the immigrants' age, and their education level. And, do they speak English? Do they have access to private health insurance and so forth? And the public charge rule is something that has gone back and forth in court as recently as last week on November 3rd, I believe it was. So on Monday, November 2nd, there was a court that decided that the public charge rule was no good and the government could no longer apply it. And that next day, another court said, nope, they can. So the public charge rule is something that has been around this year, back and forth in court. And as of the date of this video, it is back on, but President-elect Biden does intend to get rid of that, or at least reverse it once he becomes sworn in as our president. Another thing that he wants to do is to stop building the border wall and instead to improve border enforcement. As we know, the wall is not as secure as people would like to think it is. earlier this year, there have been videos of people scaling the wall. Parts of the wall have been, like dragging. So it's not really effective. And also, more importantly, the majority of immigrants that come to the United States come here legally. They come here with a visitor's visa or some sort of visa. Maybe some of them stay, but the majority of immigrants that are coming here are coming here legally. So having a border wall at Mexico really isn't, it doesn't really make practical sense. And also, entries from Mexico over the past couple of years, even before Trump became president, had been on the decline. So Biden intends to, instead of focusing on building this wall that really won't make a difference, that really is just a waste of taxpayer dollars, he wants to instead redirect these funds to improve border enforcement instead of building the wall. Another thing he intends to do is he wants to reinstate DACA, which stands for the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. And he also wants to come up with a way to allow people with DACA to apply for and qualify for federal student aid. Biden realizes that a lot of these people, which I believe at the time of this video, there are at least 700,000 people in the United States that have DACA. So President-elect Biden understands the contributions that immigrants are making to this country, and he wants to make sure that they're able to continue to get an education to continue to make these contributions, especially, for example, during this COVID pandemic that we're still battling. Many people that were, working as healthcare workers and doctors are people that have DACA. So one of the things that Biden wants to do is to ensure that they're able to continue to stay here, that they're qualifying for federal student aid, and he also wants to see if there's a way that he can provide protection for their parents. This is something that President Obama tried to do a couple of years after he created the DACA program through executive order, and because of the way in which he went about it, that started the whole mess of the Trump administration trying to terminate DACA and succeeding on terminating the DAPA program, which would have been Deferred Action for Parental Arrivals. And President Barack Obama intended to not only expand the DACA program to include parents, but he also wanted to extend the qualifying times. Originally, you could apply for DACA if you were here before 2007, and President Obama tried to expand it so that you could apply if you were here before 2010. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to succeed in that, but President Biden does want to see if there is a way in which he can create that pathway for family members of those who have DACA. Another thing that President-elect Biden would like to do is to end the Muslim bans. As we know, one of the first things that Trump did as president is to issue the Muslim ban. I remember it was a Saturday night in January. It was very cold in Boston, and I remember several of my colleagues running to Logan Airport trying to see if they could help these Muslim people that all of a sudden were told that they could not enter the United States because of this brand new Muslim ban that was happening. So Biden would like to end one of those. And over the years, there have been other travel bans, Muslim bans as well. The most recent was February of 2020, where Trump expanded this to primarily primarily Muslim countries in Africa, so including, and just also including random African countries such as Nigeria and Eritrea and Kyrgyzstan and many others. So that is one of the things that President-elect Biden would like to get rid of as well. Another thing that he would like to do is to protect people that have temporary protected status and DED, which stands for Delayed Enforced Departure. And Delayed Enforced Departure is kind of like a remnant of TPS. This is not a very accurate, direct description of what DED is. But for example, there are people that had TPS for Liberia and then their TPS status ended, but instead of completely ending their status, they were granted delayed enforced departure, which means that they can still have a legal status while they're winding down and then having to go back to Liberia. But as we know, Liberians are able to apply for a special green card as long as they apply for it before December 20th. But that is just an example of what DED is. It enables you to stay in the country and also continue to work legally. But President-elect Biden would like to protect people that have TPS. He wants to review all of the countries that have TPS, which as of the date of this video, 10 countries have TPS. And he wants to just re-examine TPS for the countries for people, especially those that really cannot return to their country safely. And he wants to try to create a pathway to citizenship for people that have been living in this country, building their lives here. He wants to, try to create a pathway of citizenship for those people. Another thing that he wants to do is he wants to shift the enforcement priorities so that they're more so focused on people that are a public security risk and people that are a national security threat rather than lower grade immigrants, for example, people that maybe got a parking ticket or something like that. He really wants to just have immigration officials focusing on people that have done serious things, such as, people that are like seriously a public safety threat, international security threat. President-elect Biden also wants to protect and expand opportunities for immigrants who served in the military, which is something that Trump has tried to attack on several occasions. President-elect Biden also wants to streamline the naturalization process to make it a little bit faster, to make it more efficient, and to remove roadblocks for people that want to become U.S. citizens and want to really be ingrained in this society and continue to contribute in the ways that they have been. And overall, he really just wants to modernize our immigration system. Our immigration system is very antiquated, very paper reliant, very, old school. There are a lot of things that, no longer apply, or there are ways that the immigration system should change. For example, over the summer, there was an outcry because during COVID, many people who were here on student visas had to switch to online learning. And most of the student visas don't allow for online learning. They require that the student is actually attending class in person on a campus. And those that do allow online learning don't really allow for 100% online courses. However, over time, we have, become a little bit more susceptible to and accepting of online curriculums. And also with COVID, which no one expected to happen really, a lot of schools had to switch gears and go switch to online learning. So when, over the summer, when the government was like, nope, doesn't matter, come fall, you're going to have to go to school in person or you're going to have to go back to your country, there was a lot of outcry for those people because a lot of the schools that these immigrants were going to had already decided that they were going to switch to online learning. So there are ways in which our immigration laws are very antiquated, don't account for things such as technology and other technological advances and things of that nature. And, President-elect Biden wants to do his part to try to modernize our immigration system. As far as how successful he will be with this, that remains to be seen because, as we know, Congress is the one that really, makes the laws. And, the same with how Mitch McConnell said that he would not, his goal was to ensure that President Barack Obama ended up being a one-term president. He has already expressed his desire to do the same for Biden and not cooperate with President-elect Biden as well. So it remains to be seen. We still do have runoff elections that will determine what the makeup of Congress will be. So that does remain to be seen. Hopefully we will, hopefully Democrats will be able to, take over the Senate so that some legislation could possibly happen during this term. But presidents do have the ability to execute executive orders, so that might be something that President-elect Biden chooses to do or has to do out of just out of necessity, as President Obama had to do. And on the plus side, the president can just issue his executive orders. On the other hand, though, because they're not, law made by Congress, the next president can just come in and have those executive orders reversed as well. There will be another thing that we can expect in the Biden presidency is that there probably will be more cases going to the Supreme Court. Right now, there are several immigration cases going to the Supreme Court. One of them, which I believe had oral arguments last week, is the case about the migrant protection protocols, which I mentioned earlier, which is the Remain in Mexico policy. That is at the Supreme Court right now. Back in February, if I remember correctly, there was an injunction that said the government could not do this, and that same day, there was another injunction that said they could. So now it's at the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will decide one way or another. There's also the case of the border wall that's also at the Supreme Court right now. And there are a variety of other cases that are at the Supreme Court. For example, if the government wants to initiate deportation proceedings against you, they have to issue you a document called a notice to appear. And the case that's at the Supreme Court right now is going to be talking about how much information that document needs to contain, how much information about your case, about your charges, does the government have to provide on that document. So that remains to be seen as these cases are decided, which probably won't be until spring, summer of 2021. I will definitely let you know of the progress of that. But generally speaking, I just wanted to come on and, do this video so that you can know what to expect in a Biden presidency. One question that I get a lot is, should I even bother to apply for anything right now? My answer is yes. I know a lot of people who wanted to wait until the election happened to see what they should do. Now the election has happened. I'm telling you, you should still apply for your immigration benefits now. Reason being, there are a lot of things on this list, and I did not even mention every single thing on President-elect Biden's immigration plans list. But these are things that he wants to do. These are aspirational things. It does not mean that all of these things will actually happen. So I like to go by what is actually the case today versus what could come in the future. So I would always recommend and encourage people to apply for your immigration benefits now while you know what the law is, while you still have the opportunity to apply, especially if you're getting a green card through a family member. I always encourage people to go ahead and file that I-130 as soon as you can, because the I-130 will determine how quickly you will get your green card, for example, because the I-130 dictates what your priority date is, and your priority date dictates how fast you get your green card. So I will always encourage people to still keep moving on your cases. Even though, we know who our next president will be, we still do have Trump as our president. He can still do a lot of damage between now and then. He can create more barriers to your ability to apply for things. So I would still definitely recommend that you get the ball rolling, especially if you are someone who is possibly subject to being placed in deportation proceedings. Because if you have a status that's ending, for example, while you have TPS status, for example, you cannot be placed in removal proceedings. TPS is scheduled to end for a lot of immigrants. And so I would encourage people who maybe have a status that is expiring soon, or who are, maybe you applied for a green card that was denied. Now you don't have that protection. If you applied for a green card through, for example, a U.S. citizen spouse, you no longer have that protection from removal. I would encourage you to get a move on with your application to see if you can try to avoid being placed in removal proceedings. So I will always encourage people to continue to apply for immigration benefits now, despite the fact that we do have another president coming in which will provide us more favorable immigration benefits. So I hope you found this extremely long video helpful. Please definitely share with your friends, anybody that you think would be interested in learning what we could expect from a Biden presidency. If you have not already, please be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel so that you don't miss my next videos. And also, if you haven't already, definitely follow me on Instagram, because I do provide a lot of information over there that I do not provide over here on this YouTube channel. And if you'd like to learn more about me, my law firm, and our mission to help as many immigrants gain legal status in the United States, you can visit brazenlegal.com. Thank you for watching.